Hi everyone, Randy Littleson, Chief Marketing Officer at Conga, and I'm excited to be joined today by Rob Newnes-Smith. Rob is the former Chief Technology Officer at Thomson Reuters. And we're going to be talking about digital and business model transformations. So Rob, let's start with this. How do you strike a balance between digitizing customer interactions and renovating core legacy systems?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because, the customer transactions are ones that many of your business colleagues will see the immediate value around and often want to prioritize the investment there, and quite rightly. And I'd say if you're able to do that without having major issues from an integration point of view with the back end, then it's a great place to start to get digital transformations moving forwards and showing very tangible results and delivering some of those benefits. However, the thing you've always got to balance on the back end is that your legacy systems will hold you back at one point in the future. It may hold you back in some businesses now and others later. So you've got to be very deliberate at the pace that you renovate your core systems. Start early, even if you've got some tribes and squads on the digital front ends. Think very carefully about the pace of what you need to do at the back end and give yourself time to do that in a well-mannered and measured way, over a number of months, quarters, and even years.
Rob, how do you drive high service availability and performance where you're using hybrid services across multiple cloud and SaaS providers, external systems integrators, and in-house teams?
Yeah, so I think firstly you've got to think about what are the processes? Who are the consumers of those processes? Is it your customers, the employees of your organization? It could be your partners, resellers. There's some other actors in there. So think very much about the consumers of the service and then work back from that. Work across the set of providers and underlying capabilities that come together to deliver that outcome. And then there's a real art, I think, in terms as well as some science of how you work with those different providers so they all understand what they're trying to achieve for your organization from an end game point of view, who they're trying to do that for, and who they do it with. And build those relationships between the handoff points. And then if you can put some science around it in terms of quantifiable measures, outcomes, etc., so that you can track those outcomes and drive a meaningful dialogue around how well you're doing as an ecosystem to hit that, then you start to get a real opportunity to drive up service availability, to learn from what's going right, to perhaps to instrument things that aren't going so well and to drive that continuous improvement, and to have an honest dialogue around which parts of the ecosystem are the ones that are pulling down that overall availability to a customer, an employee, a partner, or whoever it is.
What best practices would you recommend for digital transformation efforts with the complex legacy of multiple acquisitions over many years?
Yeah, sure. I think first, Randy, you start with where's the business going to be in the next 2 to 5 years? Because if you're an organization that acquire a lot of businesses, it may be the case that you also divest them at times. You may divest them because they don't bring you the success that you were looking for, or don't fit with your portfolio quite well enough, or just the world's changed and you're going after different markets. So firstly, understand where the business is going as best as you can predict with your colleagues in the relevant functions. And then I think it's about a very clear target architecture. What are the capabilities that you need to support those businesses that are going to be the future growth and the future part of the family in the next 3 to 5 years? What are those capabilities you need? And where do you have technologies today that are a really nice fit for those capabilities? And where, honestly, do you have some capabilities that are overlapping, but none of them might be the right one? So get together, these are the capabilities, these are the technologies based on a market scan today externally and a look internally of what we've got, and matching the technology in each of those spaces. And then I think it's very much about having a clear investment plan. Which are the technologies that are non-strategic can you live with for a few years? Where is the biggest bang for the buck for swapping some of those out or consolidating from a system that's not part of your future to one that perhaps you've got that is, and doing that in a measured way, but thinking very much about the business benefit of making those changes, because that's where you attract the investment and attract the kudos for getting future investment as well.
What lessons have you learned from a complex demerger or divestiture in a global scale technology heavy business related to revenue management?
Yeah, so biggest example that I've been involved with is taking a $12 billion revenue packing company and splitting that into two sort of roughly sized organizations. So firstly, you very much understand with who owns what, who's going to own what product line and what revenue streams going forwards, having a clear understanding of that business split and how that's going to be split apart. And then you've really got to pace yourself in terms of the speed at which you disentangle those systems. Some things are fairly simple things because they sort of naturally ring fence to one organization or the other, and you can give that to either entity as appropriate. But where you get into things that are reliant on products that go one way or the other way, relied on shared systems, you really have to think very carefully about who's going to own that system longer term, and then how do you put in some kind of transitional service agreement so that both entities can continue to function and trade for perhaps 6, 12, 18, 24 months, however long it is, before you can make those system changes. And you've got to pace yourself around those system changes, because while it may be easy to do one or other set of changes, you've got a whole range of things going off at once in a complex demerger. So making sure that you allow the businesses to thrive under their new ownership without being put at jeopardy of trying to pull those systems apart too soon, is a really important focus of your planning exercise.
As you transform business models from legacy to more modern, such as subscription, what underlying systems capabilities are essential enablers?
Well, I think it's not always the case, but often the case with newer business models, you want to sell through not just a sales channel, but also digitally. So thinking very carefully around codifying your underlying product structures, the different constraints, commercial constraints you want to put around how you sell them, the price points, the length of agreements with your customers, the different pricing tiering models, scale discounts, bundling products together and how that may then affect the overall price the customer pays. And thinking very carefully about making sure that is embedded into your capabilities, that embed that into your systems. Because a lot of legacy business models will have back-end processes to fulfill deals which allow people to apply discounting and other things rather creatively on the way. As you modernize your business, you've got to take that out of the hands of people doing that on a bespoke basis and really put that into your underlying systems. So making sure you understand in your core lead to support systems and the order to cash part especially, do you really have the right capabilities to enable you to do that from a system point of view? Have you got those today? Have some of those system capabilities fit for purpose for the future, but you need to augment that with some specialist technologies that will go around your core ERP and CRM systems.
Thanks, Rob, for the great insights. Thanks you for joining us. We invite you to learn more at conga.com.